My daughter sold the code, my cousin grabbed the money, hidden keys. Unlocked a $35 million fraud. I wasn't ruined by strangers. I was gutted by my own blood. My daughter sold a passcode that should have died with me. My cousin used it to circle what he thought was easy money. And when the will was read, they handed me a dented toolbox like I should know my place. The room laughed. I swallowed it. If this is all I get, I told myself, then I'll make it count. What none of them knew was that the quiet thing they mocked was the fuse, and I was done being polite about fire. Before we dive into today's story, let us know where you're watching from. And as you watch, don't just sit back, be part of the experience. If a moment grabs your attention, whether it's powerful, unexpected, or deeply moving, drop a comment with the timestamp of that scene and share your thoughts. Your reactions bring the story to life, and we love seeing which moments resonate with you the most. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Now grab a coffee or tea, settle in, and let's begin. I wake before the gulls, when the river lies flat and the kettle's first whistle threads the fog. Astoria in early fall smells of damp rope and diesel. Crab pots rust on porches like old trophies. My house sits on a bluff above the Columbia, a wood box that creaks when the tide turns. I keep it neat, not fancy. Swept floors, a clean mug, my cap on a hook by the door, habits that hold what grief cannot. For 30 years, I was a tug mechanic. Torque lived in my hands, and metal had a temperament I learned to read. After my wife died, I stayed with wrenches because wrenches don't pity you. They give you a problem that yields to attention and time. Even so, the house feels one size too big. I pour coffee into a dented thermos and set it beside my old adjustable wrench. Its oiled jaw shines, even on gray mornings. Not all tools make noise, I think. My daughter Lena moved to Portland with her husband Ty, a man whose voice always seems a step ahead of himself. We talk enough to keep the dust off our connection. Rent, traffic, the rain. When Uncle Bernard died, the gulls lifted from the roof as if someone had shaken the shingles. Bernard Huxley made warehouse money, quiet money, the kind that doesn't glitter until a ledger calls your name. Years ago, he helped me through the worst month after the funeral, a bridge loan and a handshake, the sense he saw me without measuring me. Porter and Delia, my cousins, practice another faith. They like numbers you can post, cars that know they're expensive, watches that announce themselves before you do. I don't blame them, everybody needs a compass. But applause is a shaky north. The lawyer's letter arrived on a fog-heavy morning. The appointment was for Friday on the Hill, glass walls and leather where views make even bad news look affluent. I laid the envelope beside the thermos and watched steam vanish. My chest made room for a hope I didn't want, a line in print that said I had lived right. I ironed that hope flat and told myself to be steady. That night I pressed the only good shirt I own. The iron hissed like a small engine. Lena texted, "Just look presentable, okay?" I typed, "Okay." Ty called, "We should be efficient tomorrow." I said, "I'll be there," and left the rest unsaid. The kitchen carries more quiet than I need. I wipe the table whether or not it wants wiping. I rinse the cup, even if it's already dry. Discipline is cheaper than luck and lasts longer, which is why I oil hinges and coil cords and fix the catch on the shed. Doing small things right when no one watches has always felt like a private prayer. I walked the bluff at dusk. The lighthouse blinked its patient metronome, and upriver a barge nosed along, slow as a sermon. Bernard never bragged. Wealth sat on him like a coat worn for warmth, not display. When I was young, I mistook that for arrogance. Later, I learned it was restraint. Back home, I propped the summons by the bowl with loose screws and the silver dollar my wife gave me. "For luck," she'd said. I polished the wrench, not because it needed it, but because I did. I pictured Porter's shoes and Delia's laugh. I pictured Bernard's listening face. The river has that habit too. It pauses, then moves on. Lena pinged again. Please don't make a scene. I typed, I never do. She wrote, just making sure. I set my tie on the chair back to remind myself there would be a room tomorrow where fabric matters more than calluses. I tried not to mind. Sleep came by ferry, not by bridge. Past midnight, I made tea and stood at the window. The town had gone quiet except for the foghorn. I thought about dignity, the plainest word I know and the one that works hardest. It's picking up your cap when the wind takes it and refusing to chase it more than once. It's walking into rooms that don't have a chair for you and standing anyway. Morning would be leather chairs, legal pads, framed maps, and a tenor that pronounces vowels like currency. It would be Porter's smile and Delia's perfume, and my name arriving aloud in a tone that knows how much names can cost. I told myself I wanted fairness. Even I could hear the lie. What I wanted was simpler, to be seen without having to audition for the privilege. Before bed, I turned the deadbolt, then turned it back. Some doors deserve trust. I stacked my mug to dry and lined the wrench beside it, two reliables in a world that confuses speed with progress. I slipped the silver dollar into my pocket so I wouldn't forget it in the morning. You'll do, I told the mirror. The kettle rested, the fog held, the river kept the beat. I let the night decide the order in which I would meet the day. The hilltop office pretends to be neutral, all glass and varnish in a view that polishes the bay into something expensive. Inside, the air is tuned to the comfort of leather. A clock clicks louder than it should, asking everyone to behave. I sit slightly off-center with the window's glare behind me, a placement that makes faces into shadows. Porter and Delia claim the front row, back straight, hands folded, the way people sit when they expect to be applauded. Lena and Ty take chairs at my right. Her phone rests face down, pulsing with light. The probate attorney has a voice that knows its way around consonants. He places two folders on the polished table, one thick, one thin, and does not hurriedly open either. Porter leans an inch forward. Delia breathes like someone who has practiced being seen. The view shows everything except what it means. Titles flicker. Logistics sites, coastal residents, equity bundles. The numbers assemble into quiet awe. Porter receives a premium warehouse package and a brace of high-value equities. Delia inherits the Seacliff house, an account set to spill comfort for years, and art. No one cheers, but shoulders ease and a smile lands. I keep breathing on time and pretend I am still on a tug, listening to engines tell the truth. Bernard liked quiet money. This is loud money pretending restraint, and yet even I feel the tug of wanting to be counted. The attorney turns a page and looks down the list until the ink tells him to lift his eyes. He takes up the thin folder. To Graham Keller, he says, one old metal toolbox. Condition, used. Contents not specified. The room whispers without moving. A breath catches. A throat clears. Leather shifts under someone suddenly lighter. Delia's mouth arranges itself into a curved courtesy. Porter drops his gaze to the floor and raises it again as if nothing had slipped. I nod once and keep my face steady. Lena's hand finds my sleeve and smooths a crease that isn't there. Ty studies the toolbox the way a buyer inspects a box of bolts on clearance. The attorney continues, efficient, unruffled, already guiding the meeting towards signatures and receipts. When the assistant brings the box forward, I stand to take it. The handle bites my fingers with a weight that doesn't match its size. Old metal talks in its own grammar. This one suggests more than cargo for screws. I sign the receipt and say thank you. It costs nothing to be gracious and sometimes pays later. We exit in a procession that pretends not to be one. In the corridor, Porter offers me a small nod that wants to be generous. Delia's perfume follows the air like punctuation. Lena whispers that we should not make waves and asks if I need a ride home. Ty checks his watch and says he has a call. I decline the ride and say I am fine. The elevator opens with a practiced sigh, doors accept and close. In the parking lot, cousins hold folders fat with deeds. I hold a box with a past. Gulls argue overhead. My truck sits where I left it, dependable as a vow. When the box meets the passenger floor mat, it thumps with an authority that surprises me. There are days to be angry. This is not one. At a light, I remember Bernard. Not all tools make noise. The line returns now, unwanted and useful. The temptation to open the box in the cab passes. Tools deserve a table when you can manage it. I park by the house, take the steps, and set the box at my hip so the weight finds bone, not grip. Inside, the kitchen's clean table waits in its square of afternoon. I wipe it again and lower the box to the center like a witness. The house performs its ordinary music. Kettle, fridge hum, a horn far off. I slide the box an inch to test the legs under the table. The hinge scent wakes grease and cedar. My fingers want the latch, but my hands have their own decency and decline for now. I'll open it when my hands stop shaking, I tell the chair. The chair does not argue. Evening eases across the floorboards and sets a dull shine on the dented lid. Lena's text lands, "Let the cousins handle the finances." A second message suggests I bring papers to Ty. I set the phone face down without typing. I am not angry. I am not on their schedule. I turn the lamp on in the hall and switch the overhead light off in the kitchen so the box sits in an amber cone, both important and ordinary. Outside, the wind shifts and the house answers in old timber. I wash the mug, dry it, set it upside down. I check the lock and then unlock it out of habit. The toolbox waits. The river keeps the beat. Fog gathers by the bluff and makes a privacy I trust. Tomorrow will ask me to choose curiosity or patience. Tonight I practice what got me here. Sit still with my pride and let the clock speak. Tomorrow, patience, isats, I say to the room, and the room answers with the clock. The third evening after the will reading arrives, wrapped in a thin marine layer that turns streetlights to halos. I leave the house dim on purpose. One lamp over the kitchen table draws a small circle of work light around the toolbox, and everything outside that circle agrees to be quiet. The river horn is a distant baritone, patient as an old teacher. I stand for a moment with my palms on the chair back, letting the day's noise leak out through my fingers. When my breathing settles into something I recognize, I sit and pull the box toward me until the handle presses a shallow mark into the skin. Mechanics are taught by stubborn metal. You don't force a truth, you listen until it gives you one. I test the lid, feel the minute wobble at the hinge, and hold the handle so the weight rides my knuckles. The sound inside is wrong for a jumble of tools. It isn't the clatter of loose steel. It's a heavier rattle that lands and stays. I tap the long side with a knuckle, then the short side, and hear the difference a carpenter would call density and a tug mechanic would simply call promise. I fetch a narrow flathead and a thin putty knife from the drawer. Old enamel flakes where hands have worked for years, and grit collects in seams the factory never meant to be seams. I lay an old shop rag across the edge, slide the flathead under it to avoid scarring the lip, and work the putty knife into a small rebellion at the corner. Metal talks if you're patient. The first resistance is pride. The second is structure. The third is habit giving way. A sigh runs along the base when the blade reaches a place meant for it. The seam reveals itself not as a line I see, but as a change I feel. I shift my grip and lever once, then twice. The panel gives with a dry tick like a jar finally agreeing to open. Sweat beads along my hairline and cools, a modest wage for a modest victory. I lift the false bottom and set it carefully by the mug. The cavity underneath is small, exact, and perfectly concealed from a hurried glance. Inside lies a scuffed flip phone with a bent antenna, a short ring of keys stamped BH, and a safe deposit key on a plastic card from the bank downtown. Tucked under the phone is a folded index card. I unfold it and catch Bernard's tidy hand. Use what you know. Start by listening. My thumb finds the power button on the phone out of habit more than hope. The screen blinks a green so faint it feels private. The phone rings at once. The sound is shockingly bright in the quiet, a bell where I expected a sigh. I stand without meaning to, one palm flattening on the lid of the box as if the old metal can ground current. The display offers no name, only the word incoming like a small command. Hello, I say. A voice answers, deep and deliberate, not Bernard's. If you're hearing this, you were chosen. By whom? My mouth is dry and honest. Storage Unit 34B, the voice says. Warrenton, gate code on arrival. Unit code is your father's birthday. What time? Come tonight. Alone. Do not share this. The line clears into dial tone so clean it sounds like an eraser. I set the phone down and let the house finish 3 breaths while I count them. The lamp hums. The river speaks. My hands feel steadier than my thoughts, and that is a switch I trust. Bernard never let a lesson arrive without an application. Use what you know. Start by listening. Listening is what I do when I'm not sure what to say. I return the items to the cavity exactly as I found them. The false bottom seats with a small stubbornness that feels right. I pocket the phone. I clip the keys to my belt where they won't speak. The safe deposit key goes into my wallet behind the photo I still keep because it argues against forgetting. I shut the lid. Before I stand, I write a short note. Fuel, flashlight, gloves, because a list is a bridge you can walk even when the fog returns. The house prefers routine. I give it that kindness. Windows latched, back door checked, kettle emptied, lamp out. I carry the toolbox to the truck and set it behind the seat where it won't slide. The pry bar from the shed goes on the floorboard with a pair of gloves and the small flashlight that has never failed me. I do not text Lena. I do not call Ty. I leave the driveway without waking the neighbor's dog. It's a little past 9 when the bluff road opens to the highway. Headlights make shallow pools in the mist, and the wipers squeak a rhythm I haven't heard since winter. Gravel sounds like thinking under the tires whenever I turn off the main drag. I drive careful the way you carry a bowl filled to the lip. The river keeps pace on my left, invisible but present, the way certain promises are. I say the numbers of my father's birthday under my breath until they settle where muscle memory can find them. Warrenton's storage facility rises out of the fog like a row of teeth. The gate is taller than it needs to be, which is the point of gates. I idle at the keypad and feel the phone buzz in my pocket. The screen shows incoming again. My thumb hovers over answer while the engine ticks down its heat. The lamplight along the lanes turns the mist to gauze. Somewhere a forklift coughs in a different yard, a night worker reminding me that quiet work is still work. I glance in the side mirror. The road behind is empty. The river is only a sound. I breathe once to clear the leftover pride and once to invite a steadier kind. Not all tools make noise, I say, because Bernard would appreciate a man remembering. My thumb drops. The call and the gate are both waiting, and I am done waiting. I roll forward. I check mirrors once. The road holds. The gate holds. The choice holds. I ease to the keypad closer. Sodium lights comb the fog into ribbons as I nose the truck along the storage lanes. Numbers climb on the corrugated doors like mile markers. The place smells of wet concrete and cold iron, the kind of night industry keeps for itself. I idle at the gate and tap in my high school graduation year, the digits muscle memory could find even with gloves on. A green bar wakes. The chain drive murmurs. Metal parts for me as if the night had been expecting a man who knows his own dates. The lane to 34B runs straight as a plumb line. I coast with the headlights on low and let the mist do the rest. At the unit, the keypad blinks a square red eye. I speak my father's birthday in numbers, each digit a small vow I can still keep, and press them in order. A half-second pause, then a thunk I know in my bones. The door rolls up with a rattle like a breath held too long and finally released. The interior holds its air the way a shop holds a job between shifts. Concrete. Dust bands where feet don't reach. A tarp-humped mass sits to the right like a docile animal. A sturdy desk waits under a chain-hung bulb with a pull that looks like a brass tear. I kill the truck, pocket the flip phone, and step inside. When I pull the chain, light gathers politely into a circle, and the rest of the unit agrees to be shadow until invited. The envelope on the desk reads GK in a hand I could pick out of 100. Bernard's tidy restraint, the ink firm but not loud. The paper has the faint crisp of stock that costs more than you admit. I slit it with a thumbnail and let the voice in the lines do what voices do when they've chosen their moment. He doesn't waste ink, he never did. He writes that the visible estate went to the cousins because a bright lure draws impatient fish. He writes that I was picked to be a keeper, not a claimant. He reminds me to protect, not parade. If ethics fail, activate the channel he laid down years ago. Move with patience. Catalog, then close. At the bottom, the postscript, I already know. Use what you know. Start by listening. I fold the letter along its original crease and set it exactly where it had rested. The tarp whispers when I take its corner and peel it back. Grainy light finds 3 metal crates stacked like sober promises, each stenciled BH in block letters that feel heavier than paint. The first lid resists, then accepts the flat of my palm. Inside, dull gleam. Gold bars, each sleeping in its groove, serial stamped like quiet dog tags. Cold lifts through the air over them the way a basement sends up a draft. The second crate offers paper gravity, band-wrapped cash in mixed faces, dated straps that remember where they were counted, silica packs in the corners, like careful saints. The smell is old linen and ink and a hint of hands. I count nothing. I note everything. The third crate is the spine of the whole animal, leather-bound journals with edges rubbed smooth by thought, rolled maps tied with twine, folders with tabs in Bernard's shorthand, a small key bundle on a ring, and a labeled USB no larger than a thumbnail. The journal spines carry headings that read like buoy names: properties, counterparties, risk, set-asides. It is all here, the quiet machinery behind the polished lives upstairs. I work like a mechanic in a warm engine bay. No flourishes, no heroics. Phone photos without flash, index card notes in pencil. Date, contents, condition. Pads replaced where I found them. Lids shut, clasps seated. The tarp drawn back into place without a show. Bernard's letter keeps time. Catalog, then close. I hear it as plainly as I hear my own breath. The flip phone in my pocket gives a single insect small buzz, not a call, just a nudge. I stand still. The lane beyond the half-raised door lies in fog that looks gentle until you remember what it can hide. I kill the bulb, let my pupils earn their pay, and listen. Far off, some other yard coughs a forklift to life. The rest is the after ring of my own pulse. I drop the door to my knee, wait, drop it the rest of the way, and roll the tumbler home. Outside, the mist has thickened into privacy. I key the unit again to confirm the lock, and the keypad obliges with a shy green blink. The gate shows a tiny LCD line of timestamps I pretend not to notice until I've read them. My entry sits where it should. I run a finger down the casing as if that could tighten what's already tight. Not tonight. I tell the part of me that wants to live here until dawn. Patience isn't virtue, it's a tool you keep close because it never breaks. I drive without lighting up the lanes, coasting until the corner grants me cover. At the outer fence, I stop, climb out, and fix a cheap trail cam to the post that watches the keypad in the gate throat. Magnet clamp, IR on, motion trigger, timestamp burned in. It's not paranoia. It's listening with a lens. I test the angle with a slow wave of the hand and watch the red eye answer. The fog beads on my jacket like the sweat you only see when a job is almost done. Home receives me the way a boat accepts weight as long as it arrives in the right place. I set the toolbox on the kitchen chair and slide the laptop over. The trail cam's SD card clicks into the slot with the same practical music as socket to ratchet. Files bloom, infrared ghosts stepping out of dark. At 0041, a figure walks into the cone of gray, ball cap, hood up, shoulders I know better than my own posture. My chest tightens the way a belt tightens when it finds the right notch. The keypad blinks awake. Hands move. The gate yields like it did for me. An email pings the corner of the screen. A facility access log Bernard must have arranged to mirror to a test account. Second use of my code. Same night, same gate. While the clip loops, the phone face brightens with a banner from a number I already resent. Ty, send me the numbers now. I don't open it. I don't open anything. Anger is easy. I set it beside the wrench and let it cool. The chain I'll need is simple enough: footage, timestamps, message trail. I will not confront a child with a guess. I will not flush a thief with a shout. Keeper, not claimant. Father, not enemy. I duplicate the SD to a spare drive and tuck both away. The journal's headings parade through my mind, and each word sounds like a buoy ringing out its position in fog. I shut the toolbox and push in the chair. The lamp clicks off and the hall light takes its watch. Outside, the river keeps its beat. Inside, the house keeps mine. Tomorrow will bring letters and faces and a stiffer kind of weather. Tonight belongs to order. Keys where they go, note where I'll find it, evidence where heat can't reach. I leave the window cracked for the cold to come through like sense. Then I let the dark finish the chapter I started. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment "still here" below to let me know you're with me. Now let's keep going. Morning arrives, the color of galvanized steel, drizzle stippling the window until the view looks cross-hatched. I clear a space on the table, set the toolbox back on its shelf as if to keep the room balanced, and open the laptop. The certified envelope sits like a dare under my coffee mug ring. I slit it and let the language parade, whereas herein forthwith, until the single intention steps forward. Surrender all materials belonging to the estate. Defined so broadly it might include my memory. There's a clause about all derivative media, a net big enough to scrape the riverbed. I place the letter beside the wrench and mark the date in my notebook. Intimidation often wears linen. Evidence wants order. I mirror the trail cam file to a second drive and label both with a black marker that bites the plastic. Timestamps go in ink on paper because there are days when electrons lie to you and ink refuses. Folder tree neat, witness/audio, transfers/docs, access logs/screens. I copy hashes by hand as if I were balancing a carburetor, each number another thread in the rope I'll need. I do not flood the world. I keep the valve half closed. Pressure bends steel if you know where to apply it. A knock lands like a stone dropped into a bucket. Lena stands in the doorway, jacket wet, hair flattened by the weather. She doesn't text first, she doesn't sit, she holds her phone with both hands the way travelers hold passports when the line moves too fast. Ty said he needed the code to help, she says. He said it was urgent. For us, I pour water. I set the glass within reach. Don't delete a thing. Her eyes flick to the shelf where the toolbox rests, then back to me. I sent it. The words are small but carry weight, like bolts you don't see until a pulley fails. I do not lecture. I ask for the thread, the exact chain of messages forwarded as is. I ask her to put the phone in airplane mode and leave it that way for a day. She nods. Shame is already doing the talking. I tell her I will handle Ty. She asks if handle means blood. I say it means dates and facts. We stand like that, father and daughter, separated by 2 feet of clean linoleum and a decade of assumptions, until the heater clicks and releases us. Porter needs 5 minutes. Anything longer will invite grease. I print a still from the trail cam video. Hood up, ball cap, the gate winking awake. I print the log showing my code used again at 0041. I clip a short transcript line from Witness, the one where Porter says, "Force the signature," and Delia agrees in a voice that sounds allergic to shame. Then I text a sentence that costs me nothing. Meet me at the Old South Pier at dusk. 5 minutes is cheaper than court. Astoria's weather drops its courtesy the way men drop their voices before a fight. Wind shifts upriver and blows the drizzle sideways. Gulls tilt and correct. Meaner now. I wear the deck jacket that remembers better days. The South Pier holds steady despite everything eating it. Porter arrives in a sleek coat that looks confused by salt. He makes the last 15 steps at a practice pace like a man who thinks he owns the choreography of a scene. We stand at the truck hood, evidence folder centered. The river chops against pilings and throws back a smell of iron. "You've made this theatrical," he says, smile set like a decal. I lay the still beside the access log and keep my hand on the folder so the wind doesn't revise the facts. "I have footage, timestamps, and your voice on a file," I say. "I don't need theater." "Family matter," he says. "Misunderstanding. Return what's ours and we'll forget the—" I press play. 10 seconds is all it takes. Porter's voice saying the phrase I wrote down. Delia's assent, 2 syllables that sound like a coin tossed and not missed. Ty's chimed in line, quick and eager. Something moves along Porter's cheek, a little muscle that only panic remembers. The smile lifts and then can't find a place to land. He steps closer so the wind won't steal his words. "You think that saves you?" "No," I say, "it saves time." I tell him about a trust activation clause that wakes when ethics fail. I talk about auditors who love dates more than stories. I describe how valves work. You hold back pressure until you need to bend something stubborn. I keep my voice low because leverage hates shouting. He looks past me toward the gray where the channel widens, calculating. His coat hates the damp and so does his face. I let silence do some labor. The horn of a cargo boat leans on the air, a long vowel that makes the gulls shut up for once. "Terms," I say, and place them between us like tools. 1. He halts any access attempts and stays away from Lena and Ty. 2. He ceases siphons and stops Delia's draws. 3. Within 72 hours, he sits with me and a third-party CPA to structure restitution into a community fund. Fail anyone, and I activate the trust and ship the witness packet and the logs where they must go. I do not say please. I do not say or else. The river makes that line for me. He goes very still. There's a shape of a man who wants to lunge and the shape of a man who wants to run. He tries on both and returns to breathing. "You're bluffing," he says, but it lacks muscle. He sees the still. He sees the log. He hears the 10 seconds again in his head and wonders how long the rest of the tape runs. Rain crosses the pier in sheets now, the kind that slaps skin and then apologizes with cold. I close the folder and pocket the phone. 5 minutes spent. I tip the evidence into the passenger seat, not because I'm done with it, but because the air has told me the scene is over. Porter stays put, hydrophobic and thinking. The wind takes his words before he chooses them. Sometimes that is mercy. At home, the kitchen towel drips from the chair back. The toolbox sits where I left it, patient as a metronome. I hang the deck jacket and open the laptop again. In the witness directory, behind a folder marked Set-Asides, I find a PDF of a power of attorney draft with my name on it and a signature line that looks like mine on the worst day of the month my wife died. I close it. Not tonight. Some truths need their moment. I send Lena a single line. I have what I need. Rest. She answers with a dot that means she is still here. I put the still and the log back into their sleeve and slide the sleeve into the drawer with tape and batteries. The river grows louder as the wind comes around. Order has a sound. I let the room find it. Then I sit with my hands flat on the wood and feel the pressure settle. Not gone, just held in place, waiting like a tool that doesn't make noise until it has to. Morning rinses the town clean and leaves a smell of wet cedar in the kitchen. I clear the table until it looks like a bench in a shop, laptop open, notebook square to my right, black pen above the margin like a gauge needle at idle. The toolbox stays shut, a witness who doesn't need coaching. On the screen sits the file I didn't want to meet before sleep, witness/setaside/POA.PDF, waiting with the patience of paper. I open it and let the page look back at me. My name rests on the line marked principal and below it a signature that claims to be mine. It's near enough to fool a glance, but the hand misses what the hand remembers. The pressure stroke on the G starts too heavy. The loop in the H leans wrong, as if pushed, not turned. The tail on the R runs long, like someone showing off flourish where I've never had any. The date stings, the month my wife died when my writing looked like gravel. Whoever chose it wanted me off balance. Procedure, not outrage. I lay out exemplars, truck title, an old union card, the marriage license copy from the safe. 3 deviations tally in the notebook. Start pressure, loop angle, tail length. The notary stamp inside the PDF looks like a scan glued onto meaning. It's leverage, not a coffin nail. I breathe and file the breath like any other measurement. Yeah. The twist lives next door in transfers/docs. I open an email chain to the bank, a request to consolidate dormant keys and holdings for beneficiary coordination. The sender address is clean in a way only burners are. First name, random digits @gmail.com. The attachment is my POA.PDF. The bank manager at the Astoria branch has flagged it signature mismatch. Metadata says the file took a detour before it got there, forwarded days earlier from Lena's account, subject line Dad's Doc. I sit still. The kettle clicks as metal cools. The room waits to see which kind of father I intend to be. 2 roads appear. Go loud. Activate the trust now, police report, injunctions, and a call that puts Porter on the 6 o'clock news. It would contain the fire and scorch the house I love. Or go precise, revoke the poison quietly, put the bank on watch, bait a decoy transfer with no money behind it, document ties next step, then close the trap with filings that read like minutes, not headlines. Feeling is a poor foreman. Procedure leads. I call the quiet number Bernard once gave me for when paper needs to be heavier than noise. A voice answers slow and exact, an elder CPA attorney hybrid who has balanced more accounts than I've changed belts. I need revocation language and a paper trail, I say. Keep it boring and exact, he replies. Paper wins. Pause. 1.0 seconds. He lists the deliverables like a checklist. Notarized revocation of the POA, a bank instruction to freeze any action relying on the attached document, an affidavit logging the chain, cam clip, access logs, emails, no bravado, just the narrow road that holds. By 10, I'm at a pack and ship storefront with a notary stamp that smells faintly of ink and cardboard. The revocation reads like a small door closing forever. I sign carefully, make the tail on the R the length the earth expects from me, not a flourish longer. The notary seals it. Copies go into a clasp envelope and a second copy into my inside pocket where heat can't smudge it. I write the time in the notebook and underline once. The bank manager meets me in a corner office with blinds half drawn and a view of gulls bullying pilings. She remembers the flagged request from last week and doesn't make a speech about vigilance. I slide the packet across, revocation, still frame of the hooded keypad visitor, access log screenshots, one-page affidavit in my hand's plain punctuation. "We'll place a watch," she says. "Fraud desk will log IP, device, and time for any attempt that references this document." I ask for something else. A visible mirage. "Build a view-only subledger labeled Consolidation Preview," I say. "Time-limited link, no funds behind it." She nods like a person who has been lied to enough times to appreciate a clean sting. Back home, I ready the rest. The trail cam gets a new angle facing the keypad, full-on, magnet bite tested, IR armed. The flip phone drinks a charge until the battery icon looks confident. Screen record software sits open on the laptop, cursor hovering above a button that will capture the decoy links analytics as they flower. Documentation is patient, spelled in stamps and pixels. Lena comes in quiet and pale the way people enter hospitals. She stands because guilt doesn't allow chairs. I keep my own voice at the level of work. "You'll forward what I send," I say. Nothing else. "I'll do it," she says. "I won't speak to him. Keep your phone in airplane after you hit send." She nods, eyes learning a lesson I wish I'd taught sooner. I hand her the email draft addressed to her with the bank manager CC'd. The subject line reads, "Preview." The body carries exactly one sentence and a link that will die on time. She taps send like you press a switch for a machine you don't entirely trust. Then she puts the phone into airplane mode, screen down, palms flat to the table. We stay that way until the refrigerator coughs and becomes ordinary again. The net begins to tug. On the laptop corner, the decoy console registers a view pinged from a device that belongs to no one I know. The bank's fraud desk mirror throws back a timestamp only a minute later. Attempted credential use, token presented, blocked by policy, IP captured, device fingerprint forming like frost. I watch the entries settle into their boxes, no drama in the typeface, all the drama in the fact of it. My phone buzzes once with a tone I assign to problems that pretend to be solutions. An email from Porter's counsel arrives, seeking amicable resolution. Amicable usually means we learned a new word for fear. I cap my pen and write a single line at the top of the notebook page. Go press. The letters look like a promise I can afford to keep. There's mercy left to do. I text Lena a simple instruction to hold her silence for 24 hours, to forward nothing, to answer no one. She replies with a period and then with nothing, which is the bravest thing she has done all week. I set the revocation atop the toolbox like a roof tile and slide the affidavit under it like a joist. Structure matters. The house feels it. Outside, the wind swings west and shows its teeth. The river chops hard enough to sound like a warning, or maybe just a metronome reminding a man to keep time. I check the latches, check the trail cam's timer, check the screen recorder one last time. Then I sit with a steady pen and let the weather decide which window it wants. Porter will knock again, louder. Ty will learn what a paper door feels like when it closes. I have chosen my road, and it is narrow on purpose. Paper wins. Procedure holds. And if the day turns loud, the quiet will still know what to do. The morning after the sting opens with a hard, clear light. I sit at the table with the laptop open. The fraud desk's email arrives first. Attempted credential use against the consolidation preview, token blocked, IP captured, device fingerprint in progress. Minutes later, the decoy console shows a second ping from a subnet tied to Porter's office building. I pull the trail cam SD and slip it into the laptop. Frames tick forward, the empty lane, then a car nose, then Ty stepping into the cone of the keypad light. The next clip shows a second shape lingering behind glass in the passenger seat. I freeze two stills and mark them, T1_face and T2_passenger. The shed lock dangles clipped. Nothing missing, just a scrap of cardboard on the post. Clock's ticking. I photograph the hinge, the scrape, the note, the ground. I file an online report and get an incident number. The new hasp fits clean, the motion light blinks its readiness. Lena shows up late morning with a duffel. She sets the spare truck key on the table. "You can," I say. "I won't call him," she says. I turned the phone off. "Good," I say, "no devices on the network." By noon, the mill calls. An anonymous complaint has triggered a review. My foreman's voice is careful. Administrative leave. I write the date in the ledger and close it. The phone warns me, "Unknown accessory moving with you." I crouch under the truck frame, magnet snug against painted steel, a puck. In the OBD port, a slim, cell-enabled dongle. I slide both into an anti-static sleeve, then foil. Ty has been borrowing my roots. In the grocery lot, I drift a cart past Porter's SUV. Metal meets metal. Back home, I clip the OBD dongle into a dummy switch panel inside an old crate labeled "Bolts Assorted." I drive to a secondary locker rented this morning on counsel's advice. Later, the console shows 2 lines of motion, one toward Porter's address, one reporting from the decoy locker. The flip phone rings. "You chose procedure." "Good." "I did," I say. "Move the journals today to counsel escrow," he says. "Rotate unit codes. Originals go to the bank box." "Understood," I say. I write time and key phrases. Fatigue taps once in my hand. I steady it, and it goes. I leave a short note to Lena folded under the salt cellar. I drive to the elder CPA attorney with a banker's envelope and sign a receipt. At the bank, the box takes the originals. I change the unit codes. Back at the house, I reseat the trail cam to catch faces and reset the motion light. The fraud desk sends live alerts. The tracker on Porter's SUV moves from his office to a lawyer's suite and back. The OBD dongle reports from the decoy locker. I log times and hash screenshots. The fraud desk follows with a second note. Device metadata updating, geolocation pending. I print to PDF, save to access logs, and duplicate to the mirror drive. On a fresh page, I draw a simple chain. Link 1, the decoy view. Link 2, the keypad image. Link 3, the midnight reuse of my gate code. Link 4, the office subnet ping. At the shed, the air smells of cut pine and wet soil. I sweep filings and bag the scrap note for evidence. I watch the motion light wash the doorway and let the petty thought go. Lena stands at the threshold. I point to the couch and the quilt. She nods and curls up. I put the spare key on the shelf and look at its shape until it becomes what it is, metal divorced from trust. The mill's leave message plays once more. I write short pay in the ledger. Under the truck, magnets fight me and then give. The OBD plug slides out. I wipe both devices. In the grocery lot, Porter parks where he can be seen. I pretend to fix the cart's wobble and touch metal to metal. The dummy crate rides shotgun, seatbelt snug. I give it a short tour of the river road, then settle it in the rental locker. Back home, the console shows the map I wanted. Good enough. After the call, I pull the journals I kept overnight, double envelope them, and drive. The elder CPA attorney files his pins in a row. The receipt goes into mine. At the bank, the dial spins and holds. I memorize the tile and leave. At home, I set the trail cam higher, angled down. I add a fresh card to the tin where evidence sleeps. The bank's alert lands at 4. The decoy link opened from a device tied to a carrier on Porter's side. The fraud desk log matches within a minute. I paste both into one PDF and title it in ballpoint. Evening returns. I heat soup. Lena eats without speaking and thanks me. I nod. After dishes, I move the revocation to the top of the toolbox and sit. By the window, the river is muscle, not mirror. I rest my palm against the glass. Tomorrow brings meetings. Tonight brings edges that fit. I pass through the locks, the plugs, the drawers. The light over the sink makes a small halo in steel. I write a line at the bottom of the page, journals escrowed, and close the notebook. Dawn shows up pale and workable, the kind of light that doesn't brag. I reset the kitchen like a bench in a shop. Laptop square, receipt folder open, escrow stub on top, notebook turned to a clean page. The toolbox stays closed with the revocation resting like a roof tile. Journals are in counsel escrow. Originals sleeping in the bank box, unit codes rotated, trackers neutralized, and redeployed. Today is paperwork with teeth. I call counsel on speaker. The elder CPA attorney answers in the same tone he'd use to read a ledger aloud. We walk the list. The revocation sits indexed and visible. My trail cam stills and access logs are authenticated by hash and timestamp. He wants them printed and clipped into a thin binder because screens forget. I loop in the bank fraud supervisor for 6 exact minutes. Live anomaly feed mirrored to counsel, she says. Honeypot remains active. I say, understood. Counsel repeats the meeting rules like torque specs. Time-boxed, recorded, counsel present, documents only, no speeches. Dates beat stories, he says. I write it at the top of the page as if it's new. The pre-meet packet comes together like a gasket set. 1-page chronology, single column, times, sources, no adjectives. Exhibits, gate logs. My entry, the second entry, still T, 1_face, tie at keypad, still T, 2_. Passenger, silhouette, and plate frame, decoy link analytics, bank honeypot report, POA revocation, and Porter's demand letter for contrast. The last page is the term sheet I've been building in pieces. Staged restitution into a local community resilience fund, cease, desist, non-contact with Lena, audit rights, device whitelists, rotating pins, facility alerts mirrored to counsel, and clocks that don't drift. At the neutral site, the conference room keeps its blinds at half and its carpet too quiet. A recorder sits in the center like a plain witness. I take the long side with counsel. Porter sets up opposite, Delia angles herself toward the window, and Ty lands on a speaker tile because his presence in a room with my daughter would be a kind of vandalism. We let silence lower the room temperature until everyone understands that noise costs extra. Counsel opens on process. He marks the time, states who's present, taps the recorder. I slide the chronology forward. We'll proceed by documents, I say. Porter tries a smile that doesn't fit his face in winter. Delia crosses one leg over the other in a movement that reads as punctuation. The speaker crackles with Ty's breath. We walk the evidence short and surgical. Gate log first. My entry, the second use. We dispute characterization, Porter says. Then dispute the timestamps, I answer. Still T, 1_face goes down next. Ty's jaw in the keypad light, enough to settle the argument for anyone who cares to be settled. Still T, 2_passenger follows. The silhouette and plate frame that prefer not to be explained. The decoy analytics sit beside the bank honeypot report, device, and IP trails mated like threads that were cut to match. Finally, the POA chain, burner Gmail, bank rejection, revocation. Counsel leans into the mic. Dates beat stories. The recorder purrs. We turn to the term sheet. The contours are simple because complexity is a liar. Restitution flows into the fund on a schedule short enough to be believed. Quarterly tranches with interest if late. Siphons and draws stop on signature. Non-contact with Lena is immediate and total. 10 business days to disclose past draws to a third-party CPA, reconciliation to follow. Banking goes read-only for anyone attached to the estate. Facilities move to device whitelists and rotating pins. Gate alerts mirror to counsel. Porter wants to rename restitution voluntary contribution and soften the clocks. Names matter, I say, so do timers. Delia suggests a pledge. Counsel slides a single sheet across the table. A stipulated injunction drafted and notarized, held in escrow. Filed only upon breach, he says. Saves everyone public theater. I let the sentence stand where it lands. We break for 5 minutes without leaving our chairs. During the pause, my eyes find the cheap clock on the wall the bank uses for audits. When time returns, Porter's attorney notes ongoing dispute like a man stamping a receipt for smoke. We sign initials to version 1.0, each page a small fence. Porter's signature leans too hard. Delia's looks like it doesn't believe in ink. Ty's arrives by secure link with a confirmed ping that sounds like a cough. I slide a separate memo across for Lena. It acknowledges her cooperation, instructs that any questions route through counsel, forbids retaliation, and sets aside a counseling stipend through the fund if she wants it. There isn't room in the room for sentiment, but there is room outside. When the door opens to the hall, I say one clean line to her ear. "Thank you for forwarding the thread." She nods with the gravity of a person who has learned to measure words. Post-meet is lockdown. Counsel acknowledges escrow of the stipulated injunction. Meeting minutes go out inside the hour. The bank flips on the anomaly feed to counsel. The view-only subledger remains bait for any latecomers who still believe in hallways without cameras. I rotate the unit code again and add an extra hasp. The trail cam angle is validated with a quick walk test and a cough in the gravel. I tick the audit checklist like a man closing a switchyard. Back home, the daylight has thinned into its evening version of honest. I label the binder, slip it into a clasp envelope, and lay it on the toolbox like a finished repair tag. The packet's weight is modest, but the order it represents feels heavier than gold. On the laptop, the anomaly feed scrolls its quiet confidence. Failures that didn't happen, attempts that never arrived, a proof that paper, when arranged correctly, can make a kind of weather. Then a single late ping appears under the gate log, an access attempt outside any party's schedule. Brief as a breath, then gone. The feed marks it with a time I recognize, between a fairy horn and the dog 2 houses down. I write the minute in the notebook, underline once, and do nothing else. Systems should be trusted long enough to reveal the difference between noise and news. The river turns in the dark like a man changing sides in sleep. I set the binder square, cap the pin, and let the house hold the rest. The ping from last night sits on the screen like a small bruise. I drink coffee that tastes of metal and patience, then call counsel. He threads the anomaly feed with the facility server logs and my trail cam time box. The plate read comes back first, a rental tied to a local investigator's LLC. A retainer email surfaces from Ty's chain. Check at the gate. It wasn't courage in the dark, it was a purchase order. Counsel drafts a short letter and sends it before the coffee cools. Cease and desist citing the signed term sheet. Notice that any further attempt triggers the stipulated injunction. He copies the PI's agency and the insurer that hates surprises most. I print the letter, hole punch it, file it next to the revocation. Paper stacks like bricks until noise has to go around. By afternoon, we're in a smaller conference room to initial the last changes. Term sheet version 1.1 hardens the language. Restitution stays, restitution. Interest runs on late tranches. Non-contact with Lena clarifies direct and indirect. Banking is read only for every party except the foundation's account. Device whitelists and rotating pins deliver to counsel and bank, not to hands that misplace them. We initial each page for the camera. Ink dries. The recorder purrs. Nobody performs relief. Money moves without ceremony, which is how money should walk when it's doing penance. Wire number 1 lands in the Astoria Community Resilience Fund. The receipt prints with a code that means the number actually crossed a river of systems. Earmarks already wait, scholarships for the community college's trades program, a purchase order for the clinic's diagnostic equipment, and a seed for a harbor apprenticeship named after Bernard. No plaque, I tell the coordinator later, or keep it small. She says understood and leaves it at that. Consequences arrive like weather moving along a coast. Porter signs a resignation from a subsidiary board and calls it personal reasons. Internally, a compliance review opens like an umbrella. Delia's credit lines tighten, her draws pause, pending reconciliation, and the invitations thin in the circle where invitations are the real currency. Ty receives a notice from the bank's fraud desk routed to a state investigator with an offer stamped in cautious ink. Cooperate fully, admissions, assistance with restitution, and we talk about non-prosecution. He has no contact with Lena. The term sheet can't love her, but it can keep her off a battlefield she never asked to walk. The PI replies through counsel with surprising speed. He terminates the engagement and attaches a sworn statement that his materials are destroyed. I don't believe in bonfires you can't see, but affidavits have weight, and weight matters. Outsourced intrusion turned into evidence against the buyer and nothing more. The public version is almost nothing. 2 sentences from the Community Foundation about a new fund focused on trades and health, no names, no theatrics. The private version finds my mailbox. The clinic's director writes in neat loops about what a functioning ultrasound can change in an old mill town. A first-generation student from my side of the tracks picks up a tool stipend and never learns where the money slept before morning. I keep the letter and not the attention. Dignity has a budget. Lena and I sit at the kitchen table late, soup bowls pushed aside. I slide the separate memo across, a no retaliation clause, a rooting note for any necessary questions, the counseling stipend written into the fund. Thank you for forwarding the thread, I say. She nods and keeps the memo, and her eyes do not ask for more. Repair prefers quiet roads. We agree to walk one. I visit the bank box when the tide is out and the city moves slowly. The originals stay. Working copies come home in a fireproof folder, edges square, tabs neat. In the house, the toolbox is a ledger again. The flip phone lies powered down. The key ring moves to counsel's safe. Index cards carry hashes, dates, and a pencil line that knows the difference between proof and opinion. The old wrench rests beside them, old work meeting new without complaint. At the mill, administrative leave lifts with a handshake that looks like an apology without the word. I take fewer hours by choice and sign up to teach Saturday basics in the trades lab. The fund is standing up. Torque, threads, safety, how to listen to metal, tell the truth. The first class smells like oil and relief. A kid asks why a breaker bar matters when you've got strength. I say, because leverage is how strength learns manners, and watch him grin like a door finally closing right. We run a final audit on Unit 34B. I log the fresh hasp and photograph the floor clean to the corners. Contents move under council storage plan, numbered, scanned, sign-out sheets where signatures earn their pay. The door rolls down for the last time and I take a picture that shows exactly nothing except a job finished. The gate opens and closes. The fog minds its own hours. At home, Lena retrieves her spare key from the bowl and doesn't pocket it. She hangs it on a new hook by the door, a piece of brass I set last night without telling her. It clicks with an authority better than any speech. Trust doesn't return with speeches. It returns like a tool placed back where it belongs. Evening rounds the bluff. The anomaly feed is quiet. The trail cam sits idle like a well-behaved dog. I lay the executed term sheet, stamped, initialed, on the toolbox like a finished work order. For a long moment I do nothing but let the house say, "It's holding." The river below is steady, not showy, the way a good engine hums when the load is right. Not all tools make noise. I say to nobody and everybody, the right ones leave marks, the right ones last. Tomorrow will ask for a lesson. Tonight allows an answer that fits in the hand. Morning holds steady over the bluff. I set the toolbox on the table and open the lid because the day asks for a ritual, not a performance. Index cards wait with hashes and dates. Working copies sit tabbed and square. The flip phone lies powered down. The empty ring where keys used to live rests beside the old wrench my hand still knows. I read, confirm, and return each thing. Nothing dramatic. A keeper counts, then closes. Stay useful, I say to the cards. The room stays quiet. Relief sits like ballast. I kept the vows that matter. Do the work, keep the promise to my wife, hold a place at the table for my daughter. What changed was the path my temper travels. Paper did the bending. Teaching took some hours from the mill and gave them to students who smell like new steel and second chances. At the trades lab, a boy tests torque by feel, then checks with the wrench. I say, that one knows leverage. He grins. Feels right, he says, testing balance. In the corner, two freshmen argue about thread pitch and then get it right. The clinic writes 2 lines about how a screen can stop fear from growing larger than it should. Down by the harbor, 2 teens in orange caps eat lunch on an upturned bucket. First day of the apprenticeship. By Friday, their boots and shoulders will tell the truth. Back home, Lena pours coffee and takes the chair that faces the river. We do not draft a post-mortem. We let the quiet do the math. After a while, she says, I'm still learning. Me too, I say. She rinses her cup and returns it to the rack. The spare key hangs on its hook by habit now. Forgiveness here has edges. It remembers the cost and stores the receipt without framing it. Porter sends nothing. Delia eats quieter dinners. Ty keeps appointments with people who write down what is said. Cooperation isn't virtue, but it can be a start. I don't gloat. The packet sits on the shelf like a fire extinguisher. Charged, inspected, boring. Tools, literal and not, matter. The wrench on the felt is instruction. The index cards are instructions. The pen is leverage when a voice would only burn fuel. Patience keeps time like the river, unbothered by opinion. We don't repair the past, I say. We build a better work surface and use it properly. She nods. Measure twice, speak once, document always. Let valves do the bending. Hold the quiet until the work can stand by itself. I write a short note to my wife. What was protected, where the journals live, how Lena is choosing slower roads, and slide it under the wrench. We kept a lot of things together. I will keep this. I drive the breaker bar to the lab and set it on the instructor's desk with a tag that says, for the work. Tools outlive speeches. They carry instruction without raising a voice. Take care of it, I tell the shop lead. We will, he says. The morning is modest and exact. The river teaches timing. The shop teaches torque. Both require listening. The months turned listening into a currency that spins without announcing itself. On the bluff, the air shows distance and minding its own business. I come back inside and square the room the way a mechanic squares a casing, evenly, without fuss. The index cards are a language that doesn't need translation. Dates, hashes, places, witness lines. Records don't tell a story. They assert one. I prefer that. I thumb the card and feel the ridge of dried ink where dates outlasted tempers. The river lays its slow vowel against the bluff and moves. I think about the students, the clinic, the students, the clinic and the apprentices, all of it exact. Keep going, I tell the room. I will, the quiet seems to answer. I lift box, feel the pull of metal and paper, and set it there. Stay useful, I say again, and this time I mean it for the day, not the cards. Not all tools make noise. The good ones leave work behind that holds without your name on it. It is enough to know the hinge will not sag, the bolt will not back out, the paper will not smudge, the promise will not wander. The lamp snaps off. The window stays cracked to the river's even breath. Work remains, but it is the right size now. Some endings don't explode. They settle. What was loud becomes measured. Paper over noise, process over pride, and quiet over spectacle. In the end, the most durable victories rarely announce themselves. They look like agreements kept, doors that close clean, tools returned to the right place. Leverage turns out to be simple: attention to sequence, respect for evidence, and patience strong enough to hold when ego wants to run. Forgiveness isn't amnesia. It is accurate memory with a gentler grip. Accountability needn't be cruel to be firm, and dignity doesn't need applause. It only needs a standard that does not move. If anything remains, let it be this: not all tools make noise. The good ones leave work behind that holds without your name on it. Thank you for being here. If this spoke to you, share a thought in the comments. What line or moment stayed with you? Your voice helps this community grow. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss what comes next. Stay well and keep going.